This country been run by a brother goats. The greediest of all time. They have all a self and none of the mentality. The chorus is me. Bunch of pigs and goats running this desk. And the latest deception and it real is really cause for alarm. They're the greediest of all time. It is plain to see the true gang and give a damn about you and me. Even big supporters crying foul and shame at how these comrades dirty in the Labour Party name. Don't business about that as long as they pocket fat. Too bad you don't agree. The goat them say it's all about me. That's the chorus. Who is the nanny gate liar? Who don't spin doctor? Men. Whose sole agenda is to make themselves richer and the poor harder. They say I know that I greedy, but I beg you don't watch me stop being hateful. Instead just be grateful. All the good them say it's all about me. That's the slogan. The big salary increase is just the latest injustice to be imposed on the people by these blundering misfits. They're selfish and greedy with no love for the needy. Grabalicious and run race, make the thing ain't got no taste. Disrespectful and pompous, arrogant and self-righteous. These goats too brave and bold, ain't got no heart, no soul. They fed on their own nest for the rest. To serve our country that God has blessed so well. Peace and love and happiness, we will forever dwell. We ask for God's protection and guidance on our way. The People's Action Movement will strive from day to day. The People's Action Movement is here and here to stay.
Hello everyone, welcome. It's Perspectives time. This is episode number 8. Can you believe it? It's been 2 months since we've been bringing to you Perspectives. Of course, if you are new here, we need to let you know that this is a live social media series that is brought to you by the People's Action Movement, the main opposition party in St. Kitts and Nevis, a party which is just shy of 60 years old. And that is a good segue to let you know that the discussion this evening is central to Convention 58. Yes, we are having a discussion with the hope to excite you and to bring you back in your usual numbers to the People's Action Movement headquarters on Sunday, June 9th, 2024. My name is Laverne Caines, the usual host of Perspectives, and with me is the chairman of our party, Mr. Azard Gumbs. Welcome back, Mr. Gumbs.
Thank you so much, Laverne.
How are you? I'm doing well. You seem to be a fixture on Perspectives.
It seems so indeed. Yes.
But I'm sure everybody is happy to see you. People like youthfulness and I guess there's hope in youthfulness and energy and all sorts of things. So it's good to have your youthful face on Perspectives.
Thank you, and it is a pleasure to be here and an honor. And anytime I have the opportunity to speak to persons on behalf of the party, I take that opportunity to do so.
Mm-hmm. I know you do. I know you savor the opportunity, if we might add. It's something that I know you jump at because you are so, I guess, wanting to always tell people the good news about a party. And
Indeed.
Who better to tell it than somebody who have experienced it. Mm-hmm. So welcome again to you and to all of our listeners. Now, we don't want to be selfish. We want everybody to hear the information tonight. So if I were you, I would send my neighbor a message, or my co-workers, whoever you have on your WhatsApp contact, send them a message and tell them to hop on Perspectives, because the conversation tonight is going to be about Convention 58. And we know without a doubt that there's a lot of excitement in the air, because this is a year of change, if you will, considering that after Sunday, God's willing, Sunday the 2nd of June, we would very likely have a new political leader. And so that in itself has created a lot of talk and excitement. And so we know that that might be an added attraction to bring people out on Convention Day, June 9th.
Yes.
So let's jump right in, Mr. Gumbs.
Yes.
Let's not keep the people waiting
Let's not
to
at all.
share this information about Convention 58. But before we get into the meat of, the convention proper, what really is the purpose of a party having a convention?
Well, there are different reasons why different political parties would have convention. The main reason any political party would have a convention is to rally its base, is to create excitement. We've seen that a number of political parties all across the world, they continue to have convention. Some have convention to elect presidents and vice presidents. We have our convention to display the office holders, the plans of the party, and to revitalize our base, because we recognize that the People's Action Movement, a party of almost 60 years, as you have said, continues to grow. And at this point in time, you talk about there being new leadership, and it is our time now at convention to rally our base, to rally support, to get people excited and willing to work with the People's Action Movement for another year.
So, but some people may say, well, I don't need to get excited now because there's still 2 years to go before election. What do you say to people who say that?
I say that we never know when the current Prime Minister will call an election. In fact, in 2022, the then Prime Minister, the Honorable Timothy Harris, called the election after 2 years. The Team Unity, in which PAM, the People's Action Movement, held 4 seats, having been victorious at the polls in 2020, only 2 years after being victorious, had to go back to election again. So we never know. And so we must always be prepared and ready to ensure that the people and the party and the machinery is well oiled and ready if there is an election.
You said it well. You said it well. Be prepared. Isn't
Yes.
that the motto of the Boy Scouts? Be
Yes.
prepared.
And the motto of the party, putting people first.
Right,
Yes.
right. Putting people first, all while getting ready for any eventuality.
Exactly.
That is a perfect combination of those two things. So we're going to veer a little bit closer now to talking about Convention
Yes.
58. What is the theme of Convention 58?
The theme of Convention 58 is a new vision, your voice, our commitment. Yes.
So let me just repeat it. A new vision, your voice, our commitment.
Yes.
Let's break it down one by one.
Certainly.
Let's break it down. A new vision. Why is there a need for the party to have a new vision at this time?
Well, we understand that the People's Action Movement was unsuccessful in 2020 from that general election. It meant, therefore, that the People's Action Movement had to take some time to reflect on what went wrong, what we needed to do. And so at this point in time, there is a new vision. There is a new purpose. There is a new understanding. There is some regeneration, whereby the People's Action Movement, having listened to the persons, we've done a number of walkthroughs throughout the years, and we have met with the people, and a lot of the people are concerned about things that happened in the past, and we are well positioned to ensure that the mistakes of the past are not repeated. And so we are having this new vision. And so the vision is people-led as usual and people-centered. But we understand that as time changes, people have different expectations of their government and their representatives.
So that new vision you're saying was spurred by the people's suggestions.
Yes.
The people said, look, maybe this is a time for the party to recalibrate. And I tell people that the last election was not, I wouldn't count it as a normal election because of all of the circumstances that led to it. And so, it's almost a case when you're playing football and you score an own goal kind of thing. And so you kind of give the opposition a goal just like that,
Yes.
So
indeed, if we were to look at the 2022 election, it wasn't a situation that the Labour Party was so great. It was a situation where they capitalized on some disagreements between our parties.
Yes.
And so we are ready, and we are putting plans in place to ensure that the people understand that we are ready for government. We are ready to work again for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis.
So that's the new vision. So it's, and just to kind of paint a picture, it's a new vision,
Yes.
which means that it translates to your voice, our commitment. Who is the you in your?
Of course, the electorate, the people in whom we serve, the people that continue to help us and support the People's Action Movement, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. That is the voice that we are listening to.
So we are not limiting it to, as we say, when we, as in our call to action on a political platform, members, friends, and supporters. We have actually widened the call to action.
Precisely.
So it's not necessarily that we're saying this new vision is going to come from our members alone, but from any and everybody who wants to share in the new vision of the party.
Exactly. And as you have said, and as I reiterate, we went to the people. There are a number of times we've done walkthroughs, and even without doing walkthroughs, there are a number of persons in the community who would come to persons, office holders, and even supporters of the People's Action Movement and express to them what they think is best in moving St. Kitts and Nevis forward. They have shared their own concerns with us. They have shared their own problems with us, because a number of persons are faced with victimization, high cost of living. They are faced with realities that they did not face at this extreme before. And so we are listening to the people, and we are making the voice of the people our commitment.
Well said. And indeed, there was an expression that was once coined that the voice of the people is the voice of God.
Yes.
So it seems to me that if we are in fact now paying attention to the people, we would be people-led, people-driven, and perhaps now stand the best chance over the course of the coming weeks and months and perhaps years. Nobody knows how long it would be before the bell is rung, to listen to the people. And importantly, it's not just about listening to the people, but having listened to the people, what are we going to do with what the people are telling us, even in opposition?
Exactly. And that is why we continue to energize our base. That is why we continue to work for the people. In fact, there are some persons who carry this misconception that they want other people to believe that the People's Action Movement is dead. And I shudder at the thought at persons who echo those sentiments, because the People's Action Movement is alive and well. The People's Action Movement continue to grow from strength to strength. We recognize that there were some challenges in 2022. We recognize that as a result of those challenges, the party would have suffered defeat at the polls. But like any other party, Laverne, the People's Action Movement is growing and is coming back. There's no party that has been in government in a truly democratic state forever. And so we recognize that the People's Action Movement was in government in 1980 to 1995. And then in 2015 to 2022, the Labour Party had been in opposition during those times. In fact, if persons were to recall, in 2020, a lot of persons thought the Labour Party was dead. And if it had not been for the disagreements between our parties in Team Unity, the Labour Party would have been in opposition now. And so let us remember that the People's Action Movement is alive and well, and the People's Action Movement is doing what it takes to ensure that we rebuild, we remain refocused, and that we take government during the next election.
And I think part of that voice of the people is really looking for an advocate, because, like you said, there's been a lot of disappointments, disillusion. People are now fearful of a lot of things, and I think what is driving this is a lot of stagnancy. We're not seeing a lot of growth. We're not seeing a lot of development. People are unsure. I mean, I think I heard the deputy political leader today on another program, sharing the information about convention, saying that when you go to some of the main watering holes on the island on the weekend, whereas in times past there were so many people who were just letting down their hair and socializing, that these watering holes now are literally empty.
And in fact, there are a number of persons who carry the sentiment that the country, when it comes to, they like to say money flowing, they're saying no money is flowing in the economy. There are persons who have been suffering from the increased rise in cost of living. There are persons now, as we see, the number of homicides has risen to alarming totals. I think if we were to remember, it's up to 14 now for this year. And last year, it was 31, if I'm not mistaken. And so a lot of persons are critical of the present administration.
Maybe
a lot of persons,
even.
Yes, are disappointed. They thought that a lot of persons who voted for them thought that their lives would have been better. But in fact, their lives are much worse than before. And so a lot of persons are complaining. They're complaining about the high costs of living. They're complaining about the increasing number of homicides. They're complaining about so many things as it relates to the performance of this government or the non-performance. Because the only thing that they perform well is travel. They are traveling governments. So many of them leave the island in their numbers. In fact, you wonder whether or not they are serving the people of St. Kitts and Nevis at home, or they are serving themselves abroad. And so the people are watching. The people are watching with eyes wide open. And never before have the people of St. Kitts and Nevis been so critical about the travels of government ministers. In fact, someone asked me a question at one point in time. Well, isn't it expected of government ministers to travel? And I say, that is true. We do expect them to travel at some time, but the frequency in which they travel and the number of them that travel at the same time in such large batches is alarming, a cause of concern. One person posted just recently, who's in charge of the government? When you see up to 5 members of the government, the MPs, leaving the country.
So these are the things that people are voicing to us.
Yes.
So the part of the theme of the convention which says your voice, these are some of the things that people have brought to our attention, saying, look, we need to fix these things because, like you said, this is not what we expected in a new government. This is not what we were told that they would bring to the table. And so clearly there's disappointment. So these are the things that your voice, the people's voice, have shared with us. And so we are going to look at some of these concerns at our party's convention and provide some degree of hope.
Yes.
So the other side of this is our commitment. What are we committing to in this respect?
Yes, and we are committing to working with the people of St. Kitts and Nevis to ensure that we have a better St. Kitts and Nevis. In fact, we recognize the high number of homicides, Laverne. Just recently, months ago, the People's Action Movement, having recognized the number of homicides, the increased number, we wrote to the Prime Minister and saying we wish to be part of the solution. We wish to have a seat at the table. Of course, we all know what happened after that. We were scolded at. We were told that never before has an opposition met with a government in such a manner. And so it made us feel as though what we were doing was wrong, to want to be a part of the solution, when so many times you listen to the talk shows, you listen to the radio, and they're saying the opposition not only should oppose, but lend solutions. And that is what we attempted to do.
And so that is part of our commitment. And I think further that our commitment is to bring some creativity in government. If you ask me, and in the last conversation we had, the last live that we had, where we interviewed our outgoing political leader, Dr. Sean Richards, I think that was some of the things that we touched on. How in 2024, as society is evolving, there needs to be some degree of creativity in government. And so sometimes being in opposition is not such a bad thing, because it is giving us time now to bring something fresh, to commit to new thinking, to novel and creative ways of solving things, of running government. And so I think these next 3 years, if we reach to as long as 3 years, really is a time to buckle down whilst in opposition. You fully utilizing the time to make good of the solutions that the people are telling us that they need to see brought to the table. Because we really can't go on. I mean, I don't want to stray too much, but when you even think about the CBI and how now the bottom is really dropping out, clearly no opposition can approach government without finding some other sector that would then become, the focal point for economic development, because clearly we have had most of our eggs in that CBI basket, and the bottom of the basket is clearly falling apart. We don't even know if in the next 3 years there would still be a CBI. And so even in opposition now, it gives us a good opportunity to drill down and to look at all of the ways we could creatively bring to a new government and remove some of the over-reliance on CBI. And that ought to be part of our commitment.
Yes, and I'm glad that you mentioned the CBI program, because never before we would have to be creative. We realized that the country was afloat based on the returns from the CBI, and we recognize that our CBI program has been under threat. Those persons who listen to the news, those persons who read, those persons who share posts, they understand the situation in which we are in right now. And so, like never before, we need leaders who are creative. Not just those persons who can talk a good game, but we need persons who are creative to ensure that there is a plan for St. Kitts and Nevis. Innovative leaders we need. And so no more talk shops, because when we elect persons now, they have to come with a plan. We recognize that this administration, they rename, they reset. I like to call them the reset government, because they take everything that has been done before and they try to reset it. So they reset the name. But it is very much a shell of what the program was before, just to ensure that they they stand apart from what the opposition had built. They rename it, but it is nothing but a shell of what was.
Yeah, of the former thing.
Yes,
that it was supposed to replace. You're so correct. And even when we have to look at the agricultural sector, oh my goodness, we are falling so behind. I mean, one of our own, Troy Flanders, was here a few weeks ago talking about all of the stumblings that the farmers are experiencing in agriculture. The fact that many of them have not been allowed to sit at the table and offer solutions. He spoke at great length about a farmer who said he had been in farming for 50 years and that he had been moved to tears, saying that this is the worst he has ever seen. So part of our commitment now, in that new vision, really ought to be a consultative approach where farmers are concerned. Because we surely can't expect the farmers to, if we are relying on the farmers to provide, food and, to sustain us and perhaps even to have extras to export, we can't be dictating to them. It must be a consultative approach where they tell us, we listen, and then there's a middle ground where we can come to some solution.
Some commitment, right? Yes, and as you spoke about the farming industry and you talk about agriculture, I too am alarmed by the what is coming out from the farmers. In fact, on the performance of the Minister of Agriculture, a lot of the farmers are now saying that it seems as though that when government ministers come together and they are MPs and they're forming the cabinet, it seems as though that they give the worst to the worst or the lowest performing minister, the Ministry of Agriculture. And so they feel as though that no real importance, no real thought has been behind agriculture. In fact, we have a Minister of Agriculture that took the 25 by 25 agenda as a national agenda, created as if it was created by them. In fact, it is a regional agenda. And it is a regional goal. We, having looked at what the regional goal is, must have our own national agenda for agriculture. And that is where we are lacking. And so you have a number of farmers complaining about very simple things. You have farmers coming on radio shows week after week talking about the lack of consultation. And these are farmers who are great farmers in their trade. These are persons who produce well. And I often say to them, if I were the Minister of Agriculture and they present their plans to me, it is as though they are consultants in the Ministry of Agriculture that we have not paid for, because a lot of what they are saying, their suggestions, their recommendations, they are valid. And all they need is a listening ear.
Yes.
And that, sadly, they do not have.
So as I dial back to the theme for Convention 58, that is our commitment to the farmers, that we understand the significant role you're playing to maintain the breadbasket in this country, and our commitment to you is to bring you to the table and listen to you. As you say, I mean, it's free advice, because you cannot, I mean, I think you'll be hard pressed to advise somebody who has more experience than you.
In fact, we have a Minister of Agriculture who himself boasts of being a farmer. And so we would have thought that
So he's in competition with the farmers?
It could be one, that. And two, how else would a farmer not be able to interact and produce as we ought to have thought?
Maybe he's not a real farmer.
There are persons out there, as you have hinted, who are sometimes wondering if he's in competition with the very farmers in which he has been elected and chosen to serve by accepting that ministry.
Yeah. And then, of course, we can't forget sports. I mean, I think the sports-loving people in St. Kitts and Nevis are still at odds with the fact that we are not even being mentioned for CPL and that's international competition. So and there's so many things that we are lacking when we look at where we were 7 years prior to 2022.
It hurts my heart when we look at the performance of the same minister. Same minister of agriculture is the same minister of sports. We look at a local competition. We have the inter-high school competition. We look at the stadium, and we look at the fact that after said minister and the ministry would have highlighted sometime, I think in July 2023, that work was done or being done on the stadium. Up to January, persons were still not aware as to what the status of the stadium would have been. Persons were then given short notice as to the inability to use the stadium as they once did. Very short notice. And of course, the pressure was placed on the organizers to ensure that the sporting event took place and took place well. I think.
But it doesn't absolve all of these inadequacies and stumblings of the minister.
Exactly. And one has to look back and think. This is a competition that is locally held years. We all know when it's coming. Months in advance. We could tell you when it is next year. You understand? So if we continue, if the Labour Party, if the Minister of Sports continue to drop the ball on things that are routine, what else can we expect?
Yeah. But all the while, you know, one also has to look at the repercussions, because when you impact lives and livelihood in a manner where people wake every morning not knowing whether they'll have a job, if they should save, if they should invest, if they should spend, it can't be a comfortable feeling for the average Joe and Mary, knowing that, well, you know, based on the trajectory of this government, I don't know what is that. And that people are beginning to say that.
But
in fact, I had a conversation with somebody who is saying they're not a betting person, but they are willing to go on record by saying that there's a high likelihood that we may go back in the hands of the IMF. And so, you know, one has to begin to ponder on all of these things. And so surely, as we ourselves are considering this convention theme about committing to the people, we in that commitment need to provide hope. We need to provide, you know, some sort of I don't know, good feeling, because people are searching for something different. And it is no surprise that we are at this stage, because I think from the get-go, there were a lot of concerns about the inexperience of some of the ministers. Now, I was a little at odds with that assertion, because, you know, I figure that the way the civil service works, you know, the technocrats and the senior people are really the ones who do all of the work. But when you're hearing things about, you know, some of the high-handed attitudes, I guess people are maybe afraid and withdrawing. But surely our country can do better. We have to do better. And so part of that commitment to the people on Sunday, and not only on Sunday, June 9th, but henceforth, has to be that we, as an opposition party, we are the better alternative. In fact, there's 3 parties now, so maybe I should say the best. We are the best alternative to take the country into a new government whenever that time comes.
In fact, Laverne, as you have indicated, it seems as though our government, the Labour administration, that they run in the country on autopilot. Some persons look at the performance of this administration, the things that they have done, their conduct, as one that we are wondering who is in charge, who is leading the ship. You understand? It seems as though they have said, well, we're gonna just fly away and hope that everything run itself.
Or when they come back, they meet the country.
Yes.
That, I mean, it's no laughing matter, because again, as I just said, you're talking about people's lives and livelihood.
Exactly.
And one can scarce be, you know, be joking about it, because it is a very serious thing.
And
so,
though we might, you know, say it in a jokingly style, it is very serious.
It is. So just again to remind the folks what the theme of the Convention 58 is, and it is a new vision. Your voice being in the people, and not necessarily the members and friends and supporters of PAM, but the voice of the people in St. Kitts and Nevis all together, the collective voice of the people. So a new vision, your voice, our commitment. And we just shared some of the ways that we are going to recommit to the people in preparation of getting into government.
In fact, our last convention was a great one. We had so much energy, we had so much vibes, we had so much, you know, electricity in the room. Even outside of the party headquarters last year, we had Robert Morgan of the Jamaica Labour Party. He gave a very impactful speech. He impressed on us to remember the people in whom we serve, and to go back to the people, to engage with the people. And after his speech, as I said before, we had a number of walkthroughs. We went through the crowds in certain villages, and we listened to what the concerns of the electorate, that their concerns are. And quite frankly, a lot of persons are disappointed with this government. A lot of persons do not believe that this government should be given an opportunity to serve again.
Very well. And it is not a one-off thing, we might add. So it's not that we have been to the people. Obviously the current executive is in the final days
Yes.
of the one-year term that
Yes.
our constitution gives us.
Exactly.
But this is not to say that we are not going to stay in touch with the people, because importantly, if we are saying that we are going to use the voice of the people to propel us and to shape our commitment to them, then obviously we have to stay with the people, and so we want to reinforce that commitment, that even after the new executive is ratified on June the 9th, after our caucus on Sunday, we are going to see more of us. We are going to visit you in the constituencies, in your homes, wherever you are, because we have to use that voice continuously to determine the way forward. And so, yes, the chairman just made an excellent point about reaching out to the people in the constituencies during this the last 12 months in the executive term. But it doesn't end there. And we want to promise you that, in fact, if anything, we're going to step up on our outreach, because we understand that if you have something to share, you must be able to find us. And we're not going to allow you to call us and can't get us. We're going to come to you where you are. So look out for us in the coming weeks and months, because we're coming back to your constituencies.
In fact, if we were to look at the performance of the last executive, we saw the opening of the PAM Secretariat, whereby we now have someone on Saturdays from time of 10 to 2, whereby persons can come in, get information, persons can pay their membership fees, persons can interact with a member of the executive on that Saturday. We look at the number of press conferences that we have held. We have held a number of press conferences whereby we have spoken to a number of issues facing our country. We have graded already the performance of the St. Kitts Labour Party 1 year in office, and I think, if I could recall correctly, they were a grade D. D for deceptive and D for delusional, because they continue to promise things that they know they have no interest in or willingness to fulfill. And so we continue to work hard as a party, hard as an executive, to ensure that we reconstruct and rebuild, to ensure that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis is in a better place come the next general election, when the People's Action Movement is victorious at the polls.
And you spoke early on about, I guess you were dialing back a little bit to Convention 57, talking about some of the nuggets that were shared by the then guest speaker.
Yes.
So let's give the people a little idea now of who this year's guest speaker would be.
Well, this year's guest speaker is, I would say, an individual from another Caribbean country, and very close, very nearby.
We don't want any puzzles now, Mr. Gumbs. We want you to we want you to say name and nature and island and all of that.
Very well, very well. And so, coming as the guest speaker for this year's convention is Dame D. Giselle Isaac. She is the current chairperson of the UPP, United Progressive Party, there in Antigua and Barbuda, the main opposition party. She has served as the Speaker of the National Assembly from 2004 to 2014. She had a 10-year stint as the Speaker of the National Assembly there in Antigua and Barbuda, and she's now the current chairperson of the main opposition party in Antigua and Barbuda, the UPP.
All I could say is yay to woman power.
I knew that would have been the sentiment.
Yes, to woman power. You know, without a doubt, women move the needle in political parties. I mean, if you look all across the world, and sometimes we don't always get the accolades and we don't always get the recognition, but believe you me, the firepower in most political parties come from women, whether they're behind the scenes, beside the scenes, in front of the scenes, wherever they are. And so I always say more power to women in political parties.
In fact, it will be a very interesting convention, because if we are looking at, so far only one person has indicated interest in becoming the political leader in true nomination. Of course, we welcome nominations on the floor of caucus. But if we're going to look at that, it is more or less, it looks like we are going to get a female leader if no other person puts up that nomination. And so you think about a female featured speaker with a possible female leader, and then you think about the electricity outside PAM headquarters.
Don't be saying electricity too much times now, because we know we don't have a reliable supply of electricity these days. So the more you say electricity, the more something might happen along those lines.
Yes. We don't want to give them any ideas.
Even that is falling apart. And you know, I don't even want to talk about that, because if I could swing back to that CBI conversation, this is my personal and private feeling that when the CBI was at its peak, I always believed that there ought to have been something, at least one thing that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis should have been able to point at and say, we got that because of CBI. And when I think about it, I am thinking about electricity and reduce costs in electricity. I think we should have used some of those funds to build out a plan somewhere, or do something to make sure that the cost of electricity was more affordable. So be careful when you talk about electricity. Every time I hear that word, it just drives me in that direction, because, you know, in the face of a dying CBI, the people of St. Kitts has nothing to show for it. Sadly.
Yes.
Sadly, nothing that we can point to. Anyway, moving right along. So, in terms of a little foretaste of what happens at the convention, you know, we normally have the praise and worship, where we invite the Holy Spirit into the setting, because I am a Christian and I firmly believe that in the presence of the Lord there's fullness of joy. And so we will have the praise and worship segment to start off the proceedings, and then we would segue into a number of other things.
Usually we have greetings from various
constituencies.
Various constituencies. We also have greetings from the various political parties. Sometimes we have sister parties that would offer their own greeting. And so we recognize, as we said before, sister party of the JLP. I'm just saying that's a sister party, also the UPP. And so we have other parties. We don't know who these parties are.
We're in the process of confirming.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and we want to keep you in suspense, of course, because we want them at convention.
But truthfully, we've given them more meat than bones. So,
Yes.
I mean, they have a lot to chew on now. And even if we can't fully confirm some of those other little things, I think they've gotten the major matters. And of course, we've left them with the theme, the guest speaker, and all of that. So.
And of course, you have performances. I can remember almost every year hearing a poem. I could remember hearing a song. Last year, we honored persons, stalwarts.
Who had passed on.
Yes.
I hope we're doing it this year.
Yes. And so it is a grand time where we reflect as a party. We listen to the message. We are, enthused and reveled up. And of course, the convention acts as an indication of the strength of a party often. Because if we are looking at, conventions overseas and the like, we look at, there would be persons who look at conventions and they would determine whether a party is indeed strong. Where it is that the convention is energetic, lively, then you look at the numbers, that is a sign of strength. Where it is that you see persons tugging in at a convention, as we've seen internationally, it shows that there's some sort of difficulty.
I would not. I would differ with you a little bit on one of the characteristics of of a strong convention, because we know Azard, and let's just say it for what it is.
Yes.
That a lot of people are afraid to associate with opposition parties now in St. Kitts because of the V word. What is the V word?
Victimization. You are so true as it relates to that. And that's why I said international. Because sadly here in St. Kitts and Nevis, there are a number of persons.
We're not as free as people think we are.
There are a number of persons who are in fear of victimization. In fact, I had a conversation, I think just yesterday, where someone said to me that they are a strong supporter of the People's Action Movement. But oftentimes you don't see them because they are working and they are in fear that if they were to be seen, they would be victimized. A lot of persons are in fear of associating with the People's Action Movement in public because they fear that the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party is going to victimize them. And they have families, they have homes, they have mortgages. And these are real concerns that people have. And so when we look at it, you'll find that a lot of people view, but they might not be in attendance of fear of victimization, and that is real.
And not only will they view, they'll probably view silently without even interacting in the comments because, of course, the trawlers would be out.
Yes.
And so
in fact,
people would be afraid.
In fact, when you look at the party page, there are a number of persons, if you put up one, in a minute, they're under the post, commenting and dragging and bringing down.
And we know that they have been briefed. We know that they have been briefed. And on that note, because, I guess we have hinted now that, in fact, we're going to stream our convention. So those of you in the diaspora who are looking forward and can't be here, we know you miss us. We miss you too. But we want to invite you to join virtually. And I believe that maybe one or two of the radio stations normally carry at least the guest speaker and the political leaders' presentations. So if you prefer to listen by radio, maybe, the older followers who are not really into the technology to have either Facebook or YouTube, of course, you can listen locally by to the radio stations. And if you're further afield, the streaming, the live streaming on our platforms, on our YouTube and Facebook platforms. So you're not left out if you're in the diaspora. We want to invite you to jump online and listen and to share. In fact, even with our perspectives, we want if you want to have anything addressed, that you tell us what it is, even as we are live streaming. If you have an idea of a topic that you want us to delve into, we want you to share those ideas and suggestions, because we have made a commitment that this perspective is really a show that would be a sort of advocacy for you, the people whose voice is either stifled out of fear or you don't want at this time to be in the forefront.
Yes, in fact, I was listening to an interview by where our guest speaker was an interviewee, and
our guest speaker coming for Convention 58?
Correct.
Okay, right.
And the interviewer asked her the question, about being a chairman of a political party and everything like that. And as she spoke, I was saying, yes, I agree. She spoke about having to stand up to the government and having to express the views of the people. In a small country, that the victimization basically is there, it's not easy. And so a number of us have taken the mantle to represent you, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, here at the People's Action Movement. And I want you to be assured that we are committed in voicing your concerns. We are committed. If we have to walk, if we have to march, we are committed. If we have to speak, we are committed to pressing forward and ensuring that your voice is heard, as it says in our convention and new vision. Your voice, our commitment.
Well, where fear is concerned, I just want to affirm again what the good book says about that. One of my favorite Bible verses. God has not given me the spirit of fear, but He's given me a word of power, of love, and a sound mind.
Yes.
And so I am endowed with those things that can conquer fear. So, and yes, I guess we don't all have that same spirit, but, I hope most of us are striving to get there. But in the meantime, those of us who are maybe fearless, and I think there was once an expression that was coined for Sandy Pointers, that we are fearless Sandy Pointers.
Yes.
and maybe that spirit is still continuing in me as a fearless Sandy Pointer. So at the end of the day, somebody has to stand up. Somebody has to be the voice. Somebody has to speak. Somebody has to represent. Somebody has to advocate. And so if it takes you and me and the other brave folks, then we are prepared to stand in the gap for you. And that is why we are just simply echoing your voice as our convention theme for Convention 58 states. So if you have information you want to share with us, if there's anything you want us to investigate further or do follow-up research on, just please share the information with us. And we promise that we will do whatever we can to advance that information and make good of it so that all of us could benefit.
Yes, and we just want to remind you that Convention 58, A New Vision, Your Voice, Our Commitment, it's going to be held at party headquarters, and it's going to start at 2 p.m. I urge you, those persons who want to come, stay tuned. More notices will be given. Stay tuned to our Facebook page. There are various constituency groups. Get in contact with the constituency executive, the constituency chairman, and get in contact with them so transportation can be provided if necessary. You don't want to miss this convention. It's on June 9th. Just after caucus on June 2nd. So you don't want to miss this one. It is going to be a convention like no other.
I'm glad you mentioned transportation, because I know there might be some people saying, well, I don't have any vehicle, how would I get there? And so, like you said, it is important that ahead of time you contact somebody from one of the constituencies to organize transportation if you so desire. Or maybe even people could carpool.
That's what I was thinking as well.
Carpool is also an option.
You might have a sister or brother in the community and they are coming to convention, and so you couldn't come together. You could carpool, you could say, well, I'm coming, leave a space for me, convention 58. You don't want to miss it. It's going to start at 2 p.m. and as Laverne has indicated, we are going to have praise and worship, we're going to have prayers, we're going to have performances, we're going to have speeches. It's going to be so exciting
and excitable
that you don't want to miss this one.
And of course, wear your party colors, wear your gold, be bold in gold. Yes. So come out in your hat. Of course, the hat is also a symbol of the party. So wear your party colors, And you know what? I often admire PAM people at convention because we look so good. I remember as a child going to political meetings, and Dr. Billy Herbert used to say, PAM people good looking badge, you are good looking. So yes, good looking PAM people, when you come out all dolls up, wear your colors, come out to represent. It's going to be a good time. It's all part of the process of building back bigger, better, stronger, and more resilient. And of course, we can't do it without you.
And of course, it's always good to see that sea of yellow, that sea of gold, whatever you choose to wear.
But yellow, I'm a certified image consultant.
I know.
And yellow is a color that excites.
Yes. And just coming into the room and you're seeing that bright color with those beautiful faces and that energy. But convention is like nothing, It is exciting, and you see, and if you, there was a thing that I think it was the chairperson of the convention one point in time, Ralsei, when she said, PAM nice, and PAM sweet. You understand?
Yeah.
And that was just a nice echoing throughout the room, and as we look,
it still holds true.
that PAM nice and sweet, and this convention 58 is going to be nice and sweet. It's going to be a great convention, and we don't want persons to miss it. We want you to listen if you want to stay at home, because we understand that victimization is real.
No. Come in faith. Come out in faith. Again, God has not given you a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and a sound mind. Come in faith. Remember, I think on an earlier program we said, that people need to understand the power of numbers. Because, Azard, you think it's possible that a government could send home 2,000 people? What is the size of the civil service right now?
I think
about 7,000?
Yes, I was even thinking 6,000 something. In fact, it's a huge number.
Right.
Yeah.
And so a number of that number, well, quite a large subset of that number is our people.
Exactly.
And so is that possible? And that is why the stronger we become as advocates for the people, is the more willing those people would say, look me, I know if anything were to happen, my party would stand in the gap for me.
And that is one reason why I say there cannot be amalgamation of a trade union and a political party, where the trade union is supposed to fight for the rights of a people, of workers.
And the government send them home. And the party in government.
And they're saying that they are one. And so when you have a party that is in control of a trade union, a workers' union, then who do you... how can you
fighting for?
Yes, and how can you feel safe?
It sounds like somebody they have to be conflicted. Somebody will be conflicted. Right.
And so I heard the leader of the Labour Party not too long ago said at a thing, they're not going to separate the trade union or the workers' union from the St. Kitts Labour Party. And I thought to myself that workers have to be united, and it must cut across political divide. The interests of a people when it comes to workers must not be one of politics.
I agree. And not only that, but I think it is also the essence of democracy, because we have this thing that all the main characteristic of a democracy is election, free election. But democracy is so much more.
Exactly.
And so if we are to truly evolve from that state of fear and trepidation, because, well, I'm not sure, somebody may see me, the camera may pan, and they may see me, and then, when I go into work on Monday, I'm uncomfortable, and they move me, and, I think we need to do away with those things. And if we are to truly embrace all of the features and characteristics of a true democratic society, then we would move beyond those kind of fears. So this is just to encourage all of you who are not yet sure if you want to come, if you should attend the convention. Please come out and fellowship and have a good time with your fellow PAMites and supporters of the People's Action Movement.
Indeed, we welcome all persons, young, middle-aged, not so young anymore. We welcome you. It is one family. We are fighting for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. We are fighting for your benefits. And so we want to welcome you to convention. It might be your first, and there are persons out there, whatever age, it might be their first convention. And so we're welcoming you to a convention like no other. Be a part of the movement. Be a part of the action. Be a part of the People's Action Movement.
So that's a wrap. We want to thank you so much for viewing edition number 8, episode number 8 of Perspectives. Of course, we keep on reminding you that if you are so moved and you want to see more episodes in the future, please share with us some of the ideas that you have that you want to see us tackle on Perspectives. And of course, Perspectives happens because of the donation and the goodwill and even if it's just a kind word and a word of encouragement to those of us who come on here. So remember, you can drop your donations off to the Secretariat on Saturdays when we open between 10 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon, or if you want to otherwise contact us and tell us how you want to make sure that you continue to see more episodes of Perspectives. We want to thank you so much for viewing, and we hope that you'll join us next Thursday for episode 9 of Perspectives. Until then, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you on June the 9th at Convention 58.
We love to serve our country that God has blessed so well. In peace and love and happiness, we will forever dwell. We ask for God's protection and guidance on our way. The People's Action Movement will strive from day to day. The People's Action Movement is here and here to stay. To serve our country that God has blessed so well. In peace and love and happiness, we will forever